Welcome to another week of the 99% Local Podcast. I am super excited about this week's show, but I'll get to that in a minute. If you'd like to get in touch with me, drop me a line at 99percentlocalpod@gmail.com. Also, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you can get all new episodes as they come out. On today's show, I have someone I've known of for over a year or so, but just met personally recently. On top of that, I'm a frequent visitor to his shop. Joshua Merrill is the owner of Legacy Coffee Company. Legacy Coffee Company started as a mobile coffee trailer, completely debt-free. With $30 in a dream, Joshua learned and grew his company to what it is today, also partnering with local nonprofits to help make a difference in the community. A defining characteristic of Legacy Coffee Company's products is the process of air roasting their coffee, which Joshua explains more in the episode. On a personal note, Joshua and his staff are amazing and treat you like you've known them for years. Joshua once said, "We want Legacy Coffee Company to be a place for people to gather, chat, relax, heal, and begin new adventures. You do the dreaming, we'll provide the coffee." With that said, let's get to it. Prepare to be coffeed and enjoy this conversation with Joshua Merrill of Legacy Coffee Company.
My name is Joshua Merrill, and I'm the owner of Legacy Coffee Company. We are currently Spring Hill's only coffee shop and roastery. So we are a micro roaster, meaning we are roasting very, very small batches, and we air roast our coffee.
Okay.
So that's kind of a defining characteristic of the coffee that you'll see here. We're also a give back organization, so we're connected to local nonprofits and all that fun stuff. So.
Yep, and we'll get into that. So you're saying it's different as far as how you roast coffee. Like, how is it different from the other coffee shops then, for example? Like,
oh man, I can get really techy. So you've got roughly two types of roasting, commercial roasting. One is drum roasting, which is you put coffee beans into a hot steel drum that's usually over a gas line, and the coffee spins around in this drum and it heats up and it roasts inside that steel gas line. So that's one method. The other is air roasting, where you put your beans into a chamber or a tube or a hopper, and you burst hot air through the bottom of it, and the beans dance around on a bed, or it's also called fluid bed roasting. And so the difference, usually most people can very clearly pick up, is that the coffee is much lower in acidity, it's much smoother in flavor, but you still get really nice, awesome coffee flavors. But what happens is that the chaff itself that comes off during the coffee roasting process in a drum will oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes it'll roast in with the beans, and then it will burn up, and so that will create almost like a layer on the outside of the drum. And as the beans roast, they pick up some of that over roasted chaff and the oils. So it's not that the beans themselves are being over roasted, but they can pick up on that burnt chaff or that burnt element, and can sometimes come out tasting a little bit over roasted or a little bit burnt. But the air roasting has its own flavor, and I love it. I love the simplicity of it. I love how it's just much, much, much lower in acidity. You get so many people talking about how it's just smooth.
Yeah.
Smooth, so I wanted something that would match my personality. You know?
Cool. So let's step back. So
That's not
you know,
at all.
yeah, no. So you have a story on your website, the $30 in a dream. Let's kind of dive into that and how you got started. And
so I've been in coffee for about 10 years, 10 or 12, actually more than that, closer to 12. Started working at Starbucks. Loved it. Was a barista. Found that there was a tremendous amount of education within Starbucks if you wanted that. So about 4 years in, I decided I wanted to start moving up in the company, pursued the Coffee Master certification, started learning more about coffee, about growing regions, about processing, about the cup profiling, all that stuff, because it was a free resource to me. And I ended up meeting my wife at a coffee shop, so we kind of dated and talked about coffee and how she wanted to be a baker and have a bakery, and I wanted to have a coffee shop. And so we had this just connection from day one that started in a coffee shop. And as I stayed with Starbucks, now this is not a dog against Starbucks, this is just an observation, I noticed that a lot of the managers, as they got married and had kids, tended to quit. It was too much for them to maintain. So I was a little concerned, knowing I was going to get married, getting married, and just in the back of my head, wondering if that was not a consequence, but something that would happen to people that got married after they were a manager. And through some of the corporate changes at Starbucks, they shifted some things, and I was frustrated being a shift supervisor at the time and not really having the freedom and authority to problem solve and make it a better customer experience and make it a better employee experience, because work culture was a huge component when I first started. And as a people person, I'm all about trying to create a better experience for both the customer and for the person behind the counter. So with the time at Starbucks, we just kind of had a little bit more of that authority taken away, and it got more and more corporate and more corporate. So one day I just came home frustrated. I was like, get out. I told my wife, I'm like, oh, maybe we should just start our own thing. And at the time, we didn't have a coffee shop here in Spring Hill. We had Starbucks. That was it.
Okay.
We had one coffee shop.
So how long ago was that?
That would have been 5 years ago.
Okay.
There have been some coffee shops coming and going in Spring Hill, but nothing that stayed long enough. Starbucks was the only one that really had the longevity to endure the ebb and flow of Spring Hill's growth. And so I started researching what you could actually make. Could you make a living doing coffee? Come to find out, you could. There's a potential to make it. But one of the things that is a huge thing for my wife and I is we just want to be generous people, and we had this lofty goal that we want to, at some point in our lives, be able to give away a full year's salary, which for us is about $30,000. It's actually a little bit less than that, if we're going to be completely honest. But we wanted to be able to give away $30,000, and she was a preschool teacher at the time, and I was a shift supervisor at Starbucks, and so there's no way that you do the math, you can save long enough, or create that kind of wealth to give back in the community. So as I'm toying around with the idea of a coffee shop, one of the kind of motivating inspirations behind it was that there's a potential, if you start your own thing, there is that potential that you could create something that at some point you would be able to go beyond that cap and pour back into the community. And so that was part of that motivating factor, was wanting to have something that had that potential. Mm-hmm. And so we prayed about it, and it felt like it was something that we needed to pursue. I let my management know, hey, here's what I'm doing. Wanted to be transparent, and I had the blessing of my manager and regional manager, and they were all not necessarily from a on the record, hey, this is Starbucks approving this, but as individuals, I was very supported by the team that I had to move forward with it. So start planning. I'll put together a list. After being at that company for as long as I had an idea as to what equipment you needed, what equipment you could get by with, and what equipment you really didn't need. So compiled a list of everything we would need and came up with about a $30,000 list of things that we would need, including a build out. And I had a $30,000 list and I had a $20,000 list. And my wife and I prayed about it and talked about it, and one of the other aspects to my wife and I and how we live and how we wanted to do it was we don't do debt. Right. Which in the business world, people laugh that same way at me, because it's not unheard of, but it's very, very, very uncommon for you to start up completely debt-free and to try to operate entirely debt-free. So in the process of creating this dream, one of the huge things for my wife and I was, how do we do this debt-free? And so the idea came to my wife to try to put together a crowdfunding campaign. She's like, well, it's worked for people in the past. And right. So we thought, you know what, let's shoot for the lower goal. Let's try to get $20,000. And so father-in-law came and we did a video. We researched how to do a video, how to make money at crowdfunding, and we launched it. 3 months later, we came in about $18,000 short.
Okay.
So our goal was $20,000. We came up $18,000 short, thereabouts. But the way we set up our crowdfunding campaign was we were able to keep what had come in. So we had almost $2,000 that had been given to us through our amazing community, and then we had some gifts given off the crowdfunding platform throughout our other our community. We had a couple of local business owners that believed in it, and they wanted us to get the full amount versus the kind of taxed, not for lack of a better term, taxed amount. So we wound up with $5,200 at the end of this crowdfunding campaign, and I knew that's not enough to start a brick and mortar shop. So it was a little deflating and it was a little frustrating because we didn't have that $20,000 to put into a brick and mortar location, which is really what we wanted to do.
Sure.
But at the same time, you've got some bread and you've got some fish.
Yep.
So what do you do with it? And I went back into research mode and thought about, hey, you know what? Let's try to go the food truck route. I've seen work before, love food trucks, love food, and didn't think it would be wise to invest in a vehicle that was going to be $1,500.
Right, that would basically be most of your money.
Right,
yeah.
So wound up kind of fishing through ideas and wound up realizing that I had an SUV at the time, and we could buy a flatbed trailer because an enclosed trailer was too much. But if I bought a flatbed trailer, I could build a tiny house on it and function out of a tiny house. Now, I'd never built anything before. I didn't own a hammer. I had never. I mean, we had a screwdriver maybe in our house, and I had done some sheetrock, but I was by no means any sort of construction expert or guru. So we just felt like that was the right thing to do, and that's the money that we had. So I took our $20,000 list and I condensed it down and thought, okay, let's make this as minimalistic, as bare bones as we possibly can, and utilize what we have. And so I wound up quitting Starbucks and spent the whole summer building this trailer that we got for $400. And when we finished the whole thing, it was all built out. We had our syrups, we had all of our equipment, we had our health inspection, we had our sinks that were, people were giving us things that it had to be, a higher power giving that, because it was nothing that we could afford. But little bits at a time, found grinders at thrift stores, that kind of stuff, and had the whole thing built out, and we were completely out of money, like nothing left. Which we didn't have coffee. We had everything but coffee. And at the time, we were using Muletown, or we had an agreement set up with Muletown. Hey, whenever you're ready, just let us know what you need. And our minimum order was $70. And so we went to church that night, and a friend of mine asked how. He's like, "Hey man, how's the project going? How's the coffee shop going?" Yeah. And I was honest. I was like, "Man, we're good. It's ready to go. We just need coffee." And so he asked me how much you need, and I said we need $70 for a week's worth of coffee, thereabouts. And so he opens up his wallet and he gives us $100, and he says, "I want to seed into this." And so at that point, we had $70 for coffee and $30 in our bank account. So that's where that $30 in a drink came from. And we opened up in the Tractor Supply parking lot. We had 2 days worth of cups and sleeves. So we sold out, and I would have to drive up to Franklin to GFS, buy more, come back down, get ready for the next day, get more ice, get more milk, get ready. And that's how we started, was growing and stretching a little bit at a time. People were kind of skeptical because folks in the Northwest are familiar with coffee stands, coffee huts, those old 1 hour photo developing places. Like,
exactly.
Kind of looks like a glorified outhouse, but a little bigger. They're all about that. They know that. But that's not something you see very often here. So it took a little while for people to catch on to the fact that we were coffee and not a mobile meth lab, So.
Right. What's going on over there?
And so we did that I was out there 5 days a week, every day. trying to build this business, and it was literally stretching that $30 to buy a little bit, save a little bit, spend a little bit, and we did that for 13 months. We had generator issues. I mean, anytime it would rain, it was awful. And of course,
sure. Yeah.
and I'd never built anything before, so one of the elements that I found out later is that insulation is a big deal, and venting is a big deal. So I didn't have air conditioning in the summertime, but I also didn't have heat in the winter. So that meant that all of the pipes would freeze. So I would be freezing, I would be inside my little hut with the little gloves that had the fingertips cut off and trying to make people's drinks, and I'm, trying to make their day better, and yet they're concerned that I'm catching hypothermia in the little hut. So that was how it started, man. That's the
you'll have to. I'm sure there's some pictures of that out there somewhere.
Yeah, we actually have. My mom put together a little scrapbook that's at the shop here that people can look at at least the building process of the trailer.
So you said that you did that for how long?
13 months.
13 months. Okay. Yeah. So after that, what was the next step? Because you're in the location you are now.
Yeah.
So kind of walk me through that and how that happened, because you're sharing a space with Viking Pizza Company.
Right.
So there's got to be some kind of connection there.
Yeah. So we realized pretty quickly that the real estate market was going up, and our desire to be in a brick and mortar space was still valid, still there, but trying to get 1,200, 1,500 square feet wasn't going to be realistic. So I started looking for 400 square feet. We went to Asheville, North Carolina for our honeymoon, and that city is riddled with little teeny tiny itty bitty spaces that we thought, hey, if that's working in Asheville, there's possibly a chance that we could find 4 or 5, maybe 600 square feet here that someone would rent out to us for coffee. And everyone we talked to wasn't willing to cut that much space off. It just wasn't worth it for them. So my running joke was, if Culver's would let us rent their pergola, their little pergola space, I'm like, that's all I want. Just want the pergola. Just rent me your pergola. So that was my running joke with most people. And Brandon and Kelly, when they were in the process of starting Viking, they had one of their food reps come through our coffee shop, which was a drive-up option for people. And he got them coffee, and they had their meeting, and we're setting up their menu. And come to find out, they loved the coffee. And so they came through a couple of times, and after they had opened, they came through one day, and we were talking about just the process of starting your own business in Spring Hill and how hard it can be, just kind of relating to the sweat equity that goes into starting your own thing. Whenever you're not a franchise, you don't realize how many other things go into just serving a product. And so talked a little bit just about the red tape and the processes, and so once again I pulled out my running joke, which was, just waiting for Culver's to let us rent the pergola, because I knew it wouldn't happen. It was just an opportunity to make people laugh. And so Brandon and Kelly they said, well, we've got a space in our restaurant that we're not using for anything. It's this bar, because the space that we're in now used to have a liquor well. Well, they didn't want to do liquor at all. They just wanted to do beer and pizza. So they said, well, the place that was the liquor well, would you want to come in and see if that space would work for you? It's got sinks. It's a little small, but it's a dark space we're not using for anything. Come check it out. And so went in and looked at it, and I was like, this is amazing, because it had everything we need. We had everything we needed. It had our own sinks, had our own hand sink. All I needed to do was literally plug in an espresso machine, and we're good to go. So that was a month and a half before our second little boy was scheduled to be brought into the world. And so I was so grateful to get out of the trailer, because I didn't have a bathroom, no heat. And that's how we started. We were able to come in here, and they have been amazing. It's been a great opportunity to grow, and so that's how that happened.
Yeah, so I think, I'm trying to remember, I moved down to this area a little over a year ago. So is that about how long you've been here? A year and a half, maybe?
So we will be in this space 2 years in December.
Okay.
Yeah. So officially January, but we got everything moved in December because that was the best time. So 2 years, so about a year and a half actually, if you're gonna do the exact
perfect.
math.
Yeah. So let's kind of go back to the things you do, what makes Legacy Coffee kind of stand out, what makes it so popular, because I know it's a huge favorite here in Spring Hill. So, just to you, what makes it stand out among others? We already talked about the way you make your coffee and stuff. But,
well, we don't stand out actually.
No,
because we're heading. Well, I say that jokingly. The fact that we're inside of a pizza place off the main road, we kind of are this hidden gem in a sense. But the things that people love about what we do are just the drink creativity that we have. I love food, grew up with food, so coffee's like wine. There's a lot of nuances to it, and I love creating drinks that I would enjoy and sharing those with other people, and then also giving that creative freedom to our team to say, hey, create things, let's try some things. They're going to probably be bad, but you can tweak them and we can, grow as a team. So I think that always having a creative element, and people know that they're going to come in and they're going to try something that we've tried and we think is awesome. So kind of pushing the limits on creativity and thinking outside the box and trying to be something that you're not going to get anywhere else. That's a huge component. Obviously the air roasted coffee is another aspect. But also, I want to be a friendly environment. I think that people really appreciate coming in and having their name recognized and knowing that we're grateful for them being here. We wouldn't be able to have a coffee shop if people weren't willing to come in and try you. So I think having that friendly and fast and friendly. We want to be fast too, but that's it in a moderate nutshell.
Yeah. So I did see recently too, you guys were a finalist for Best Coffee for, was it the Advertiser News?
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Advertiser put together a large Best of Spring Hill event where people bought tickets to, and all of those who were nominated showed up to the event so that they could sample their good or their wares. Primarily food-based, because if you're an insurance person, people aren't here, try my insurance for a day. So we had the opportunity to show up, and we served our Hillbilly Hipster, which is the most popular, and then we also did our own coffee soda, which is our cane sugar cola cold brew, which is a summertime drink.
Okay.
And people loved it, so it was really cool to be able to be out there to represent, Spring Hill's only micro roastery in town currently that has a coffee shop. There are others actually out there, but we're the only ones with the storefront. So
we didn't even talk about this, but you said in the beginning you were using Muletown coffee. So how do you what kind of coffee do you use now? Is it
so Muletown is a roastery in Columbia.
Right.
They source their own greens from their green distributors, which they're involved in farms. So they're getting their green coffee from somewhere and roasting it themselves. We are sourcing our green coffee from other places, from other farms, and from other providers. So we get more of that creative control. So we're getting our coffee from different farms in different regions. And that's part of what I really love doing, is finding those coffees from different places.
Yeah.
So we went with Muletown in the first place, partly because the people were great. They were local. And they had a really good coffee that most people knew about, and they were comfortable trying. So in the beginning, I thought it would be really wise to have something that people would recognize. And also, I didn't know how to roast coffee at that point. So I wasn't willing to be that brave.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, cool. So you guys are also heavily involved in the community, giving back. I mean, you support local nonprofits. I see every few days you're posting on Facebook for different local businesses, come in, get a coffee on us. So kind of talk about that and your philosophy for, being involved in the community.
Man, I love giving things away. That's one of the best feelings for me, is to give stuff away. And for us, it's easier to give away coffee than we can give away money, but it is something that we have. So it was a huge deal, especially coming out of a corporation that had a different view on service people, for example. I wanted to have a business that highlighted and supported policemen and firefighters and military and veterans. And so that's one of the things we do is policemen, firefighters, anybody in uniform, we give them free coffee. And if they want anything else, they get a significant discount on something special. We give discounts to teachers because we feel like teachers are teaching the next generation. They're part of that legacy, and we value those people. They're pouring their heart and their soul into our kids, so they don't get recognized a lot. They don't get recognized enough. So we wanted to give teacher discounts and homeschooling parents discounts, and then with the nonprofits. I saw you, or actually listened to your interview with Erica Robinson from The Well. Super cool. She's awesome. And so what we do for those is we take $1 of every pound of coffee that's purchased and put it aside, and we then donate that to The Well Outreach and or the pregnancy centers of Middle Tennessee. So that's our plan on how we want to donate that $30,000 is we want to be able to get to the point where we're producing 30,000 pounds of coffee and can put those into people's homes. But it's a tangible way, it's an easy way for people to get a affordable bag of coffee and know that it's great coffee, know that it's locally roasted, it's fresh roasted, and at the same time, for those of you that haven't listened to the interview with Erica, you should go back because she talks about the significance of cash donations and money donations. They can actually buy more, you have to listen to her words, but in a simplified format, they do well with monetary donations. It gives them a little bit more freedom and flexibility to get things specifically. Like if they need Cheerios, they can go buy Cheerios or other things like that. And then, of course, the other nonprofit that we're partnered with is the Pregnancy Center, and they are a crisis pregnancy clinic, and they offer services for anyone who finds themselves in a situation that they didn't plan on and want to get options. They also do after you've had your children, they have places where you can get strollers and car seats and classes. They do like post-abortion counseling. So for anybody who's had an abortion, they do that counseling for them, both for men and for women, which I don't know what that feels like, but my wife and I, we've lost 5 kids, and so I know that hits a soft spot in my heart, because when you lose, I can get off on a side tangent, but when you know what it feels like to lose something that is valuable to you, it's nice to know that there's something within your community that you can go to help process that. So, but yeah, community is a huge deal. Yeah, sorry, man. I like to talk.
No, that's cool.
I like to talk about it.
So obviously you started here in Spring Hill, but we didn't talk about where you're actually from. Did you grow up here or in Middle Tennessee?
For 25 years.
Okay.
I've been here for about 25 years. Originally from Utah.
Okay.
My father's from Utah. My mom's from California, but they moved here 26 years ago. So I've spent the majority of my life watching little bitty Spring Hill become not so itty bitty Spring Hill.
Yeah. And your wife from here as well?
No, she's from Michigan.
She's from Michigan.
Yep, she's from the Upper Peninsula, so she's a Yooper.
Okay. So did you guys meet here then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a Starbucks regular.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Just she found out that I was interested, then she became a non-Starbucks regular. She kind of avoided me, but that's a different subject altogether.
So what do you do when you're not here at the coffee shop?
Oh, man. I've got my wife and my 2 boys. I've got an 19-month-old and a 5-year-old that we're homeschooling. So because we're still relatively new as a business, there's a lot that I'm still doing all the time. But I do my best to try to spend time with them and eat local food, cook. I love cooking, so I'm also kind of a noodling musician, so I'll play on the guitar every now and then. And then I have a couple of books that I would like to write, but I just haven't designated the time to write them. So,
you have a story to write about, so I think that would be cool. So you got a wicked beard too. So how long have you been growing that?
I've had a beard since I was 12, which is funny because I had puberty young, and I was 12 years old. I was taller than most kids my age. and I had a beard. It was just like, man, that's crazy. And so for when I was playing junior high basketball, I could keep it.
Yeah.
And then in high school, it's all about uniformity, so my coach made me take it off.
Yeah.
But I've pretty much always had it, and I never let it go a full year. I'd always heard that you should just let it go for one full year, and so the year that I quit Starbucks was the year that I officially decided I'm going to try this and give it 1 year and probably take it off was my plan. And then I got to the end of it and realized I like the way my face looks because I have a very round face, so the beard adds this element that I don't have a chin, so it gives me a chin to sport. So that's the kind of the story behind that. I don't think I've ever bought a beard product though my entire life. No, because people give them to you. When you're like the beard guy, the beard and the hat, it's like your icon. Yeah. You're like, hey, you're the coffee beard guy. Yeah. So they bring you stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah. But so you have the coffee guy here with the beard, and you have the Viking pizza guy with the beard too. So.
And they give you a discount.
They do. I got that a little bit. I mean, my beard's not much, but it was longer. I cut it, and you get a discount.
Yeah, if your beard is longer than Brandon's, who's the owner, then you get a discount.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of, I like to do this rapid fire round just to ask you a couple quick questions.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's your favorite place to go to outside of your job? Like food, maybe shopping, I don't know if you drink other coffee.
Yeah, I always love checking out local coffee shops, always fun. And I like burgers.
Burgers, yep.
So always on the hunt for a good hamburger. And I like Delta Bound; they're cool.
Yes.
And so, anytime there's a burger prospect, then I'm on board.
Yes. Favorite book?
Ooh, the one I don't read a lot, so it's usually the book that I'm reading.
Okay.
Currently reading Poverty, Riches, and Wealth by Chris Valentin. So that's one I'm in.
Favorite musical artist?
That is the hardest question.
Okay.
Because that's a mood thing for me. If I'm in the mood for this, then it's one thing. If I'm in the mood for something else, then you can hit shuffle on my iPod and it will tell you. I've got everything from Nelly and R. Kelly to Earth, Wind, and Fire, Metallica. I mean, you name it, it's on there.
Everything.
Yeah. Iron and Wine, Mumford & Sons. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Mark Broussard. I do love Mark Broussard. If I had to pick one, I like Mark Broussard. Though.
All right. Were you into 90s music at all? Do you have any favorite jams from the 90s?
Not particularly. No. I like Oasis. Yeah. But part of that's because one of my friends is a drummer on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But Hootie and the Blowfish. It's that 90s or is that earlier?
That was the late 90s, I think.
Okay.
I was in, I think, junior high. So
okay.
I don't know how old you are, but are you?
I'm 31.
31?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little bit older, 37. So yeah. All right.
And you got people like Madonna and Prince and Michael Jackson who went through that whole area, and you're like, that's not.
Yeah.
So
this one's a little bit harder. So if you were stranded on a desert island and water and food was given to you, what other two things would you want to have?
Probably the Bible and a journal.
Okay.
Oh, well, can I have a pen?
Yeah.
Okay. If I could only have two things, the Bible and a pen.
Okay.
But if I could have one of those be a pen, then Bible, journal, and a pen.
So to wrap up, let's talk about this ribbon cutting event that you guys have coming up.
Yeah.
You were, I don't know if you'd call it inducted into the Chamber of Commerce.
Officially joined, yeah.
Okay. So what does that really mean? And then let's talk about your event that you have coming up.
Super cool. Yeah. So we have our ribbon cutting October 1st, which is also National Coffee Day. So we did that on purpose. Anyone can come to the ribbon cutting. We're going to have promotions going all day long. The ribbon cutting is specifically for the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce. It took us a little while, but we officially joined the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce. So it's a way to celebrate that we're being recognized by the community as a business, and We'd love to have anybody come out. We're going to be doing free cappuccinos for anybody who stays all day long. It's free drip coffee, or 12-ounce drip coffee in your own cup if you bring it in, and then we'll do $2 drinks all day long. So it's just an opportunity to get some coffee. If it's free, great. If it's not, still going to be good. And usually we'll have the advertiser come out and take a picture. So if you want to get in the, have your picture taken, it'd be fun.
So what other kind of projects or future plans do you have coming for Legacy Coffee?
We really do want to be in our own space, in our own facility, because part of what I love doing is educating people on coffee. So we're getting our roaster actually put in here in the next couple of weeks so people can watch the coffee go from green to roasted. But it's a bit of a challenge, an obstacle whenever you've got a really busy pizza place at 11 o'clock and you want to do things that are coffee related when you're sharing the space in the kitchen. So it's not a bad thing at all, but the idea is that we want to be in our own facility so that you can do those classes. If people want to come in and actually roast their own coffee, I really think that would be awesome to be able to say that, hey, this is something that I roasted last week, and just have a more seating, just to have a little bit more of that coffee shop vibe and experience. And like I said, if we're going to actually hit 30,000 pounds of coffee, we might need a little bit bigger of a roaster than what we have right now. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a lot of roasting, because we can do 6 pounds at a time right now. So that's a lot of coffee to be roasting.
So where can listeners find you? How can they connect with you online?
Cool. Yes. So we are currently, our physical location is 3525 Kedron Road, Spring Hill, Tennessee. We are inside the same building as Viking Pizza Company. You can also go to our website, which is legacycoffeecompany.com. You can find us on Facebook at Legacy Coffee Co. and also on Instagram at Legacy Coffee Co. And there you go.